Welcome back to the Gear Locker. Today, I'm going to show you guys one of my absolute favorite AEG builds to date, and that is the G36Ka4. If you've been a long-time follower of my channel, you know that I've built a G36Ka4 previously. In fact, a couple of years ago, I did a video on it. However, this is entirely different. In recent years, there have been new developments and new products on the market that allow us to take our 3D printed and plasticky G36 to the next level with one of the most realistic feels that I could find. So let's take a look at some of the key components of a G36Ka4. The Ka4 variant was introduced en masse in about 2015. Some of the primary features include the IDZ style stock, the IDZ style upper rail segment, an H-key handguard, the extended magazine release, and the extended bolt release. Typically issued with this was an EOTech EXPS and an EOTech G33. I would also like to point out that this build is 100% Airsoft. There's not a real item on here, with one exception, although I believe that this fully fits the bill for an accurate G36Ka4 build. So how can you turn a basic Airsoft G36 into this? Well, the first major challenge is this handguard. The G36Ka4 handguard is the H-key IDZ rail. Unfortunately, there are no Airsoft replicas except for one that works for gas blowback rifles. This right here is a beautifully built aluminum H-key handguard from the brand Ultima Industries. In addition to being extremely close to real spec, this is very sturdily built and will fit on the VFC gas blowback G36s with almost zero problems. An AEG, on the other hand, gets a little bit more tricky. Around 2020, Umarex released in the United States the G36X, which is a G36C with some IDZ furniture. One of the best improvements to the standard Toki Marui or Aries style G36 AEGs was this piece right here. In prior G36 builds, this small horizontal piece of plastic was not present so that a large AEG battery could fit. However, now that we have much smaller batteries, they decided to maintain a more realistic body style and close off this gap here. And this allows the Ultima Industries rail to fit almost seamlessly with this AEG body. Essentially, if you wanted to get one of these Ultima Industries rails but did not have this G36X body, you're going to have major gaps right here. I have seen people fill that with a 3D printed kind of polymer piece, but nothing looks as good as a nice realistic body. Now, the base rifle for this kind of setup would be the G36X again from Aries. This would cost you over $400. However, I was able to purchase just the body set alone for about $70. This made this whole build a lot more manageable. However, the next challenge that you'd face once you purchased the G36X was coming up with the proper barrel length and the proper gas block. The G36C barrel length would come to about here, being a lot shorter than the K barrel length that you have here. To extend this, you're going to need about 4 inches of extra barrel material. Keep in mind, the stock AEG comes with a 14mm positive thread. So you'd have to find an adapter that's just under 4 inches and would go from 14mm positive to 14mm negative. Or if you'd like to keep the positive threads, you can do that as well. The standard G36 gas block is unfortunately not correct for the Ka4 build, so I recycled this from one of my old Aries Ka4 builds. Some key accessories that you would want on your H-key IDZ rail include a foregrip of some kind, though the Magpul AFG is one of the most common, a B&T sling mount, a rail, which I chose the 7-segment one, which is relatively common, and an LLM-01. This Airsoft replica does work decently well, but if you can find an original, that's best. One piece that I do own but don't currently have on this build, because I'm still working on it, is the pressure pad and pressure pad holder that would slot onto this rail segment. And of course, you do have some options for flash hider. I opted to use the VFC KAC style flash hider, although a standard 4-prong is kosher as well. As we work our way back, let's get to the midsection. Up top, you would have an IDZ G36 top rail. This one is an Airsoft version from S&T. However, if you do get the full G36X from Aries, then this would already be included. We did already talk about the sight combo. However, moving a little bit lower, there's a couple details that are really cool to see. One of which is this SEF selector switch. This is on all issued G36s. The export model is typically what Airsoft manufacturers replicate. So this SEF does add just a little bit of detail that's nice to see. I did this with dry transfer decals, and let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a tutorial on how to do this, because truthfully, it's not that hard, it's pretty cheap, and it adds a whole bunch of detail that really elevates your Ka4 build. Moving a little bit further down, we have a real extended mag release. This is very prominent on the G36Ka4, and honestly, I kind of like it. It works really well. Just sitting above that though is a custom project that I've been working on and modifying and tweaking, and that's an extended bolt release. For an AEG, this is non-functional unfortunately, but it does add that little bit of extra detail that again accentuates a true Ka4 build. And very commonly, you'll see the mag pull G-mags with G36Ka4s. You can use a standard G36 mag, one with the side tabs shaved off, but I opt to use something a little fancier. Now let's continue our way back to the stock. This can be a couple of versions, and we'll see the other one later, but this right here is the standard IDZ style with the concave stock pad. I do really like this stock. Not only does it have extendability, but it has a nice cheek riser that I often prefer in the uppermost position. As always, it does retain that folding nature of the G36 as well. Now let's take a look at the other side of this build. On this side, you're not going to see anything different. One of my biggest gripes with the American model of the G36X is this kind of logo right here. The European models, not only do they have a G36C, K, and full-length variant, but they have correct trademarks here. So unfortunately, we do have to deal with that in the US. I did find some stickers that I could put over that would give that more realistic look, but for now, because this rifle is likely going to get painted, I'm gonna have to leave that there. Another small detail that you could modify are these three screws right here. This style, with the Phillips head, is the most correct for the Ka4 builds. Some other manufacturers include other screw head types, but the Phillips head style is the most correct. So now let's take a look at the other G36Ka4 build, a budget build, so to speak. As you can see, we still retain some of the key features, including an IDZ stock, although this one has the convex pad system, IDZ top rail, the SEF selector, extended mag release, extended bolt release, G-mag, and H-key front rail system. However, something that you'll notice is that this looks a little bit different. It's a little shinier. If you look really close, you can see some lines, and that's because this one's 3D printed. Historically, this has been the standard for Ka4 builders, especially in the US, where we don't have access to the VFC gas blowbacks. So while this does kind of scratch that H-key itch, it's not as well produced, sturdy, or clean looking as the Ultimate Industries one. If you have a standard G36, either Toki Marui style or Aries style, this is what you're gonna have to go for. And if you remember earlier, I mentioned the little gap in the plastic body. As you can see, the 3D printed version does have enough plastic to fill that gap. So not only do you get a little bit more battery space, but you don't have that ugly gap if you were to just put the Ultimate Industries on here. It does take standard key mod accessories instead of the H-key ones, but will fit all of your standard Picatinny ones as well. I opted to use a 4-prong flash hider and still have the K version of the gas block. And this is because I still have a basic stock Aries G36K barrel. I didn't have to add barrel segments. I didn't have to get rid of the glue in here to put this kind of barrel on the other Ka4 build. This is what it comes with, and this is what it works with. So while on the other build, I would prefer to have a single one-piece barrel, unfortunately, that's a downside of it and a pro of getting a standard G36K. Another pro is that you can get the proper markings as seen here. This one does say G36KV, but it's a little bit closer than that bright red and white G36X. So all in all, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some insight on how to build out your own G36Ka4. After I do some modifications and tweaks, I'll be doing an under the hood review of this when it's fully built out. As always, this is the Gear Locker. Make your rifles kosher, and we'll see you guys in the next one.